I'm going to tell you a little tale about something that happened near Newburgh, Indiana. You see, the Newburgh Elementary School sits just a couple of blocks off the river. And a lot of the kids have to walk to school there, and some take the buses. And then some have parents that pick them up. Well, there was a group of kids that would walk. They'd walk down the same street all the time, and they'd go to school together, and they'd walk home in the evening. Well, as they got older, there were less and less kids that were walking on that path. But there was a little girl and a fella, and he just lived around the corner from her, and they would walk to school all the time. His name was John, and her name was Sarah Jane. And so they just had the best time. They would skip and run around and throw some rocks, and they'd go to school, and then when school was out, they'd walk home together. Well, the storms down in Newburgh get kind of bad coming down that Ohio River. And one day, the sirens went off. And the principal in that school told the teachers to hold the kids. You see, when they would walk back and forth to school, they always talked about what they would do if the weather got bad or if there was a bad storm. And Johnny always told Sarah Jane, he said, "Oh, Sarah Jane, you got to be really smart." One day they were cutting through a field instead of staying on the street that their mama and daddy told them to stay on. But that field was a shortcut. It went down through a creek bed and out through that field, and then it caught the street that they normally went on. Well, this day they were cutting through that field. And Johnny said, "Sarah, if you're ever out here and there's a bad storm," he says, "listen, you've got to be a really smart storm walker." He says, "See those trees over there? Don't get by them. They're really, really dangerous. If lightning would hit those trees, they could crash on you." And he half scared her to death. Well, on this day that the sirens went off, the principal had a real decision when he announced to the teachers to hold the students. He decided to let the walkers go first so that they could get home before the storm got bad. The walkers got to the side door and the teachers opened and the walkers took off. Well, you see, on that day, Sarah Jane was by herself. Because her friend Johnny, he'd gotten real sick. He'd gotten real sick. In fact, he couldn't even come to school some days. She had to carry his books home for him and give them to his mama and say hi to him. She would visit him some. He'd been up to Riley Hospital, and he had a little heart problem, and they wouldn't let him walk to school anymore. It got so bad that he couldn't go to school at all, not even if anybody brought him. Well, on this day, Sarah decided that she was going to take that shortcut because the weather was really looking bad. She remembered that her daddy told her not to. Her daddy said, "Sarah, you stay on that road, young lady, when you come home." But she was so scared, she just wanted to get home really quick. And so she took off on that shortcut, and I want you to know that the weather in the sky changed. It got dark, and it got green, and the wind started to blow. And as Sarah headed out through that field, that line of trees, it started to bend. And when Sarah came to the big creek, she slipped and she fell. The rain had started, and she fell down in the ditch, and then she felt something. Something pushed her down in the mud. She couldn't get up. Sarah laid down in that ditch, and she heard that storm and a roar go over that ditch. She was so scared, but not nearly as scared as her mama and her daddy, because when that storm hit, they'd gone to school to pick Sarah up, but she was already gone. Her daddy's heart was beating so fast, and he walked out through that field, and he was hollering, "Sarah! Sarah Jane! Sarah Jane! Where are you, Sarah? It's Daddy! Where are you, Sarah?" And then he heard her. She was down in that ditch. She said, "Daddy, Daddy, I'm down here." He jumped down in that ditch, and he picked her up, and he put his arms around that little girl, and she laid her head down on him, and he held her tight. He was so glad that she was safe. When they got home, they laid her down on the couch and pulled a napkin up around her. Her mama had taken a rag and wiped off the mud that she could get off. Sarah was exhausted, and she fell asleep on the couch. And when she woke up, her mama had some hot chocolate for her, and she said, "Sarah, honey, are you okay?" She said, "Oh, Mama, Oh, Mama, Johnny told me to be a good storm walker. I remembered what he said. I didn't go over by the big trees. I didn't, but then I fell in the ditch. And she said, and then Johnny was there. Johnny pushed me down and made me stay in the ditch. He made me stay in that ditch, Mama. And her mama had looked over at her daddy. And her mama said, Sarah, honey, I've got something to tell you. Johnny couldn't have been in the ditch with you there today. Oh, he was, Mama. He was. He kept saying, be a smart storm walker. Be a smart storm walker. Her mama gave her a big hug and she said, Sarah, honey, our Johnny passed away today at 12 o'clock. And that's the end of that tale.